nice and easy like on a Friday. And no, I'm not hanging out at the airport. I am, in fact, staying my ass home this weekend. Lofi Poli Sci coming at you. Michael Pickering here, bringing us that famous question: what's going on in the world today? And let's start off with an update to a story we ran with last Friday about Brazil banning the messaging app Telegram. Well, the ban is over, before it actually took effect, in fact. Telegram said in a public announcement that they were never notified by the Brazilian Supreme Court that they were ordered to do anything, and that this ban was in fact the first time Telegram heard of anything. Funny, so funny. So, within 2 to 3 days of the ban, Telegram complied, and before the ban could be implemented in the country, the Supreme Court lifted the ban. Oh, such a simple thing, is it not? Tech companies, always so happy to follow government orders. Well done, Telegram. Now you get to keep your access to one of the largest markets on Earth. I'm sure they are happy. But someone who is not happy, and a lot of someone's really, would be women in Afghanistan. While the Taliban had seemed to be making progress on their promise to allow women back in schools in the country, this week was a step backwards. So girls from grade 6 and below in elementary school are back in school. Women in college are back in universities, though in gender-separated classes. The females left out, that were supposed to go back to school this week, were teenagers in secondary schools. And the Taliban's reason for not letting them back in the classes this week as promised was because they couldn't decide on what uniforms to make the girls wear. Couldn't decide on a school uniform. What more is there to say that statement from the Taliban doesn't already say? Take from it what you will, Lo-Fi listeners, and write in. What do you think about all of this? Now, let's head on over to Spain, where we're actually heading on over to the United Kingdom and to Monaco and to the United Arab Emirates, all in one. It's confusing, I know, but not really. You'll see what I mean. So the former Spanish king, and yes, I know we never talk royals news, and really, we're not, but we are. You'll see. So the former Spanish king was in a relationship a few years back, and in the end he was accused of harassing the individual in multiple ways. And this goes back to 2012, while he was still king of Spain. But in 2014, he abdicates, and his son takes the throne. And then, leading up to 2020, and culminating in 2020, investigations are going hardcore into the king and his former partner, into their financials, and some shady stuff that they may have been doing. And then he, the former king of Spain, he fled the country and went into self-imposed exile in the United Arab Emirates, in the UAE. His former partner lives in Monaco, but also does live in London sometimes, but is using the UK court system to go after the former king for those harassment charges. But the former king was trying to play that whole immunity card, because he was a royal, he was a king, a head of state, and all that, yada, yada, yada. And the UK court just came back and said, shenanigans. You're not a king anymore, nor a head of state. These charges can go forward. So hooray, 1 point for taking away the power of bloodlines and bullshits and nobility, making people above the law. Good deal. Cool. It's a democracy, right? Now let's see if this guy ever leaves the UAE to face these charges. Right in. What do you think will happen? Next up on over to Latin America, we go to Nicaragua, where the ambassador of Nicaragua to the Organization of American States, aka the OAS, was gathered. And the ambassador came right out and called their own government and their president, President Daniel Ortega, a dictator and a dictatorship. People, this is huge. I mean, if you don't know who the OAS is, it's the world's oldest regional organization and a grouping of North and South American countries. It's a social and political organization based on values of democratic rights and freedoms. And Nicaragua has been catching a lot of criticism from the OAS in recent years. And for the ambassador of the country meeting at the OAS to come out and call his president and the government a dictatorship, This ambassador is literally risking their life to do this. I mean, just this week, one of Nicaragua's top newspapers, La Prensa, their director had been arrested on money laundering charges. They were just convicted on Thursday, yesterday, and are going to be sentenced at the end of the month. And this is completely politically motivated charges by the president, going after the paper because the paper had been critical of him. But this ambassador here, they're seriously risking more than just jail time. And we'll keep you updated as we know more, or you let us know if you hear something first out there. And in some good news and an update to things in Ethiopia surrounding the civil war, a truce has been called for the time being between Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan forces fighting the government. And this is really good news, people. There is a lot of food that's needed for all of the people in the Tigray region and really all the surrounding areas affected by this war. And this story is so new, like just fresh off the press. We will definitely be keeping an extra eye close to this one to see how this humanitarian aid goes moving forward. And because there is so much work to be done, it's going to take time to distribute all of this food. And the question is, are the opposing sides in this war willing to let that time pass without fighting? We surely hope so. And write in if you hear something first, Lofi listeners. Now let's switch gears a bit and get you that schedule of what's coming out of the movies this weekend. Stop the music. Did you know that the Oscars, the Academy Awards of Cinema, are this weekend? Does anyone even watch this question mark? Well, you know me in movies, so I am going to give you two lists of nominees for this weekend. It is in fact the 94th Academy Awards, and it has a bunch of hosts this go around. But the two categories I picked to go over, well, first and of course, the Best Picture nominations are Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, West Side Story. And write in, people, who do you think will win it all? Or has the show already happened when you're hearing this? What do you think about the winners? And what do you think about this list of nominees? Are they missing anyone? Should someone be added? Should someone be taken off? Go ahead and throw me your thoughts. And now, my personal favorite. And here are the nominees for the Best Animated Feature Film: Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and Raya the Last Dragon. Interesting choices here. We'll let you know on Monday who won for sure. Now, to a last bit of news to send you on your way for the weekend. We got a few more headlines for you. And our first one, sticking with the Oscar news because, well, why not? This year, the Academy has made a new category called Fan Favorite. And Twitter users could vote for their favorite film of the year just using a hashtag. And the winner won't get an Oscar or an award, but rather just recognition as the most loved film by Twitter users. Rad. Moving on to weed news. And no, we're not talking about your granny's garden or your mama's mulberry patch. We're talking Mary Jane versus the Machine. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, not really. Not quite marijuana versus the machine, but really, it kind of is. You'll see. We all know marijuana is recreationally legal in 18 states and territories in the country, and many more are medicinally legal in. But hemp, well, that's legal everywhere. And in fact, in 2018, in the U.S. Congress's Farm Bill, they made it legal for people to grow hemp, meaning marijuana with a low THC count, and in particular, it's THC of the Delta 8 kind, whereas marijuana has THC of the Delta 9 kind. You feel me? Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't. The point is, hemp is legal, and manufacturers have been extracting this variant of THC from legal hemp, playing with it in labs, and mass-producing it and putting it in vapes and gummies and all kinds of things. It's direct competition to weed. And a lot of growers around the country are worried that they won't be able to compete with this because extracting THC from hemp appears to be easier than doing it from weed. Hence, Mary Jane versus the machine. I don't know, people. I just thought it was kind of interesting, so why not talk about it? So I just threw it out there. Now to manatees in Florida. Yes, I said it and you heard it. We're talking about manatees, one of my favorite animals of all time. But bonus point out there if you can guess what animal is my favorite. Okay, you may remember at the end of last year or beginning of this year, we talked about how researchers in Florida were going to try and feed manatees lettuce to help them during the winter cold months to keep them from starving to death, Good deal, good deal. Well, that program is all about done, and it has been a huge success. I mean, it turns out manatees do eat lettuce, and a lot of it, like almost 200,000 pounds of it, since the study started in January. And this is so cool. I love manatees. Help the effort, people. Save the manatees. Now, sad news for potato-loving New Zealanders who thought they had the world's largest potato ever. The Guinness Book of World Record just informed them it wasn't a potato. Sad, I know. I'd like to be in the Guinness Book of World Records too now. I don't know if I'd do it for the largest potato or anything like that, but it'd kind of be cool, to have a world record for something. But then to find out that the record you thought you had, you don't have, well, that sucks. But of course, you're wondering out there, if it wasn't a giant potato that they had, what was it, ? It was a gourd, or the tuber part of it at least. And the next question, what the hell is a gourd, and what is this tuber part of it? I don't know. And what's more, I refuse to look it up. Nope, not happening this time. If any of you want all of you to know, then someone else better look it up and send it on in, because me, I'm not doing it. Get involved, people. You know you want to know. And a last piece of news to send you on your way to the weekend. You ever wonder, if I had $2.4 million, what would I do with it, ? And in those thoughts, thinking how you'd spend it all, are any of them use it all to buy a comic book? Because someone else sure as hell thought that it was a good idea to spend $2.4 million when they bought a 1939 printed comic book called Marvel's Comic Number 1, which is in fact the first edition of Marvel's first comic, and this copy even had notes in it, handwritten by the publisher, which apparently makes it worth more money. Look, I'll be real with you. I love comics. I love comic book movies. I love video games. I'm all kinds of nerdy, geeky individual over here. But, damn, $2.4 million on a comic book that someone else scribbled on? Bullshit, get the hell out of here. That's ridiculous. Buy some extra lettuce for the manatees in Florida. Buy a real potato for the people in New Zealand. I mean, really, what? I mean, Never mind, you already know. And that's it. I'm done. I'm out for the weekend. But you know how to find me. Check out today's blog on lofipolisci.com. Going up around 5 p.m. Know the time. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Talk to you soon, Lofi listeners. Pickering, signing off. A little behind the scenes for all you listeners that stuck around. 2.4 million. I mean, really, that's just crazy for a damn comic book. I mean, what else are you buying in your life that you already spent that kind of money on that makes you think, oh, I'll go ahead and spend another 2.4 million on this comic book? WTF, people, WTF. I just cannot explain or comprehend.